Hi and welcome back to the Deeper Than Eczema YouTube channel. We're here today talking about stress and anxiety and how that triggers eczema. Not going to put the question out there because 9 times out of 10 stress and anxiety is highly likely to trigger anybody's eczema. It definitely triggers mine anyway. So moving on, my name is Trudy, by the way, in case you've not seen this YouTube channel before. I founded Deeper Than Eczema. As well as this YouTube channel, I also have a blog where I write articles about eczema and how you can help yourself. I am also on Facebook and Instagram, so you can check those social media links as well. So moving on to talk about stress and anxiety. So basically, when we're stressed and we're anxious, it's all in the body. It affects our immune system. So what happens is the body goes into fight or flight mode, and then cortisol and adrenaline comes into the body. So when we're stressed and that comes into the body, it affects our immune system. When the immune system is affected due to those factors, this is what causes breakout in the skin. And this is what causes stress to our natural skin barrier. So our skin has a natural skin barrier, which basically blocks out irritants, etc. But if we have eczema or if we're just generally stressed, that natural skin barrier is affected. And that's what causes the eczema to trigger. And then the frustrating thing is that it's like a cycle. So when our eczema is triggered, obviously we feel a bit irritable, we get a bit annoyed, and then we go like this to our skin. And you know, we just go like this, and we itch ourselves. We're kind of like, oh, for goodness sake, go away. But what happens then? We itch, we scratch. So we try and get rid of discomfort by going like this. But itching, no, it's not itching, scratching makes the skin worse. So what happens is that turns into a cycle. And then the more we scratch, the more we itch. And then it just keeps going like this, round and round in a circle. And then worst case scenario is the constant itching, scratching, that cycle continues, which then leads to a flare-up. It could potentially lead to an infection such as weeping of the skin, bleeding of the skin, cracking of the skin. And this is where things escalate, where we then need help from our medical professionals, a GP or dermatologist. That's where that comes in. So I've spoken about stress, anxiety, and basically how that plays into the bodies and how that aggravates into our skin and the itch scratch cycle. So the question is, how can we actually manage our stress and anxiety? Not only to improve eczema, but also just to be better than ourselves. So there's many things we can actually do to overcome it. I know it's easier said than done, and if you're going through a major life situation, I don't know, for example, relocating, or maybe a family bereavement, loss of job, you know, the big life situations like that, it can definitely be difficult when we're trying to manage that in our situation. And it's the big occasions like that where we're likely to get these actual flare-ups and experiences. So the question is how we can overcome it. So examples of overcoming the eczema trigger, and also a way to manage our stress and anxiety, include activities such as mindfulness, yoga, meditation, and just general relaxation. So I actually recently started yoga, and it's a mindfulness yoga, and I'm absolutely loving it. I go once a week, and I actually look forward to my next session actually. That really does calm the body and the mind, and you just forget everything for an hour. So that's a way, a method, an example which we can do to manage our stress and anxiety. The next one is to ensure that we're eating when we should be eating. So eating regularly, that we have a balanced diet. Exercise, so being able to have regular exercise really does help. One thing I like to do is go on walks. Fortunately, I haven't really been walking as much as I should be. I really need to get back into that. But going on walks, I do find helps my brain to calm down, helps me to reflect. And one recommendation I actually would do while walking, which someone did actually say to me, is that when we go out and we walk, we tend to have our headphones on and we're listening to something. It could be listening to your favourite song, or it could be some kind of mindfulness while walking, or it could be an audiobook or something. But one thing which I actually learned is that if, say, for example, you're walking through the park, sometimes listening to nature actually does help. Whether it's listening to the trees, the wind blowing, the birds, listening to actual nature can actually help at times, rather than music which can actually cloud our mind, our way of thinking. So sometimes when I'm out walking, when I do go walking, I'll probably, I like to put on my favourite R&B and hip hop or reggae, and I'm just walking, and really sometimes need to block out that kind of music and just listen to nature. So that's something which I'll probably would recommend to try doing, because it does actually calm the mind while doing it. The next thing I'm going to talk about, going through stress and anxiety, is seeking professional help. So professional help, I do strongly recommend, on a mental health perspective that is, because sometimes there's certain things you don't want to talk about to your family and your friends. You don't want to bore them too much, don't want to annoy too much, or be repetitive and go through the same thing. And there's just certain things in life when you just need somebody professional, whether it's like a counsellor or a therapist, something along that line. So as mentioned, family and friends is great, but sometimes you need to go a little bit beyond that, where you got sort of like an impartial view and a non-judgmental view. Sometimes stress and anxiety, especially going through a life situation, or if you just want to generally improve your self-confidence or work on, your past issues, your trauma, your history, etc. This is where the counselling and therapy could come useful. So maybe doing that is a way of calming down your stress and anxiety, which in the long run would also improve your eczema. Next topic I'm going to talk about is sleep. Making sure that we get plenty of rest is also great. We're all different, but according to research, getting at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep is recommended. You probably seen me in the video, I've got this Fitbit, and the Fitbit monitors my sleep. It is a bit up and down, and sometimes I look at it and I think, oh gosh, I thought I slept well, and the thing's telling me that I only had 6.5 hours sleep. What's going on here? But the recommended sleep time of 7 to 8 hours is definitely ideal. Me personally, I find that if my sleep is less than 6 hours, I am a cranky person the following day. That's what I tend to find anyway. So getting the right amount of sleep is good. Making sure that the room and the environment has a calming and sleeping atmosphere. One big thing I do recommend, which I'm actually quite guilty of, is before we settle and go to sleep, is to make sure that we're not looking at our phones or any sort of electric devices just before bedtime, because that affects us from drifting off to sleep. And especially, if you're scrolling on Instagram or TikTok and you see a disturbing video on there, and then, the next thing you try and do is go to sleep. It's not ideal. You probably end up dreaming about it. So my recommendation is just before bedtime. I mean, some people say about an hour before, not to use a phone device before going to bed. I'm a bit of a guilty one. I need to work on that myself. So one thing which I'm going to take action on myself actually is to not look at my phone just before going to bedtime, apart from to use the relaxation app. So there's lots of relaxation and sleep apps, by the way. So I use one called Calm, and on there's lots of meditations, etc., to help you to go to sleep. So apart from picking up the phone to activate the calm app and play something, I need to stop scrolling just before going to bed. It will help, trust me, it will help you as well. The next thing I'm going to talk about, so I've spoken about sleep. Self-care is another important one. So self-care is not selfish. Make sure that you're doing the right activities which you enjoy, which helps yourself and your mental health. And that could be the examples which I mentioned previously. Nextly, skincare. So ensuring that your skincare routine is up to date, you're using the right products, etc., which works for you. The diet and nutrition is correct, so we're not eating badly where our skin can get irritated. It's just a matter of making sure that you're using the correct products and you're doing the best for yourself in order to manage the stress and anxiety. And the next one I'm going to talk about is medication. So this doesn't apply to everybody, but there may be times in life where you may need to take a medication to manage your stress, anxiety and mental health. So some people are quite critical about it, some people aren't, but you know, if you're in that situation where you do need to take some sort of medicine, please seek advice from a health professional before doing so, for getting advice. And I'd say, you know, don't feel guilty about having to take medication, whether it's an antidepressant or something calming, etc., just to calm you down. I wouldn't personally feel guilty about taking that. If it helps you, it helps your stress, that's great, because if it helps your stress, it's going to help your body physically and mentally, and it will also manage your eczema in the long run. The final thing I'm going to talk about is other types of medication. So don't quote me on this, but maybe other types of medication that you're taking, which you could be allergic to without realizing, can actually cause side effects. And you know, when I read leaflets and things, sometimes things such as, you know, rash and hives can come up. It could be something that you're actually taking. So if you do find that you're getting an odd rash or an odd hive, which is unusual, rather than put it down to stress, anxiety or diet, it may actually to do with a new medication you're taking, which you don't actually realise. So my recommendation is also to look into that as well as seeking advice from a healthcare professional as well. Okay, so I hope all of those things have helped you learn a bit about stress and anxiety, as well as activities and things which you can do to yourself to overcome, manage stress and anxiety, and manage your physical and mental health as well. Just to put a disclaimer at the end, so what works for me may not work for you. We're all different, so please test the waters, basically find out what works best for you, what doesn't work best for you. Please seek advice from a healthcare professional if you're struggling with your physical and mental health, and they'll be able to point you in the right direction. Okay, thank you very much for joining me on the Deeper Than Expert YouTube channel, and I look forward to seeing you in another video very soon. Take care. Bye bye.